Reporting for Computer Insider, I'm Bob Pritchard. There's nothing more beautiful than when one person finds the true love of another and prepares to head down the blissful path of love with their immortal beloved. However, there's no suffering more severe than that from a woman's scorn, especially when the problem surfaces after the beautiful bride receives an email after hubby changes the blushing bride's Facebook status to married. Well, it wasn't so much what the email said, but rather who the email was from. The Facebook message was from hubby's wife, not former wife, but current wife. I see a problem developing here. The message read, "Hello, new Mrs. Kelt. How can you be Mrs. Kelt when I'm still Mrs. Kelt? I smell trouble in paradise." Apparently, the new Mrs. Kelt wasn't amused and demanded that the old Mrs. Kelt check the official marriage records. Well, for Mr. Kelt, he had informed the new Mrs. Kelt that there was no longer an old Mrs. Kelt and hadn't been for a long time. Indeed, Mr. Kelt had told the new Mrs. Kelt and the person officiating at the wedding that his previous marriage had been ruled invalid and there was no official trace of it. Sadly, the old Mrs. Kelt gave the new Mrs. Kelt a copy of the marriage certificate, and a search showed that it was still valid. So the new Mrs. Kelt left the one and only Mr. Kelt and asked for the court to annul her marriage. Well, Mr. Kelt, although he attended both weddings, didn't turn up for the court hearing. He reportedly sent a text message saying, "I think I put her through enough hurt," which might be regarded as a slightly belated sentiment. This isn't the first time that Facebook has proved to be the altar on which marriage finds itself a sacrificial sham. Just 3 years ago, a woman logged on to Facebook to discover that her husband was allegedly enjoying a fairy tale wedding recently, and not to her. And then there was the curious case, just a year ago, when a woman received a Facebook friend suggestion that offered the picture of someone who allegedly was, well, her husband's other wife. In all of these cases, it's the husbands who appeared not to feel comfortable with the full disclosure. One can only look forward to the day when Facebook demands to see marriage certificates before anyone can claim official Facebook marriage status. Reporting for Computer Insider, I'm Bob Pritchard.